I've been working as a speech and language therapist for decades, which I hate to say, but it has been decades. And primary emphasis, working in the pediatric area, though I've also worked adults, but I would say my primary area is pediatrics. And pediatrics, as we all know, is anything from birth through, generally speaking, 18, which is a big area. And so I've been doing that a lot. And I have been doing most of that time in private practice. I've also worked in the schools, and I've done a lot of teaching in hospitals and things like that. I started out really working with children with special needs, and that really means I spent a lot of time working with children, like, for example, with cerebral palsy and children who have been diagnosed with Down syndrome, lots of different areas. I tend to work with the kids that nobody else wants to work with, but that's just something I've always enjoyed. And from that point, I not really redid, but I kept going on in my education, and I was trained in neurodevelopmental treatment. And at that point, you find out that everything you do, and no matter what you move in your body, you end up seeing and hearing from your voice, which is just, and that was just, you move your big toe and you can change your voice, which I think, so I worked a lot with physical therapists, occupational therapists. I love working with children who have articulation disorders. And I found out that really to people, a child who has an articulation disorder could be for their parent the worst possible thing that could ever happen to them. I love working with animals. That's the other side of me, is that I love working with dogs, sheep, oh my gosh, goats, but with dogs and horses. Dogs and horses are probably my two favorite areas. I've had MS, but I've had a progressive MS, and that means I'm not exacerbation remitting, but I have a progressive format of MS, which means there's no treatment for it, unfortunately. So as some of my physical needs were getting greater, I had a lot of very, very lucky in the fact that because I've worked with PTs, OTs, and dogs all my life, I realized that helping dogs or service dogs could really help me too. And I have one dog right now, as a matter of fact, that I decided to train my own dog as my own service dog to meet my particular needs. I would always have a dog in my private practice. There would be a dog there, a dog or dogs. And probably, a good example, now this was a while ago, I had a dog named Belle, and she taught me an incredible amount, because I found out through her how to teach a dog to be a service dog and how to teach a dog to work with children or an adult. She taught me a lot. I had a little guy, he could not pronounce the letters K and SH, those two areas, and they're not necessarily related, but so something that I did, but he always wanted to do things his way. So what I did was I had two bags that I put those letter sounds of pictures in those two bags, and I put them in front of me on a table. And Belle was there with the little guy, and I said, I asked him, do you want me to pick out one of those things to do, or do you want Belle to pick it out? And of course he said Belle, because everybody always loved Belle, and she was just great. So I just said, Belle, go get me one of the bags. Now I had in those bags things that I wanted that child to do. Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't matter what she brought me, back and forth. But so that little guy, he just did absolutely everything because Belle told him to. I didn't tell him to, Belle told him to. So nothing's better than being told by a dog. Riley teaches you patience. She would teach the kids patience. She would teach the kids how to ask for things. She would teach the kids to ask her different things. I think patience is probably one of the biggest things. And like I said, most kids I've had kids that have had great, great fear of dogs. And I've always taught the kids in my practice that you always should have a fear. Fear is good. You don't know. If you just saw a dog coming to you on the street, don't always assume that dog is going to be really nice. That dog is a spirit. That dog will teach you whatever you want that dog to teach you. I know sign language, I always say probably at a 3-year-old's level. At that point, then think about what a 3-year-old knows, and then we have different signs. Sadie, yo, Sadie, come here. Sit. Thank you. Give me 5. Oh, that was 10, but that's okay. Now, how could you not laugh at that? So yeah, for children, my practice that were deaf and or blind, it was wonderful because the dogs could teach them touch, soft touch, hard touch, whatever. I always used to say, give me a problem and I'll work it around. They're great for IEPs, for your individual educational program, because it's always what the child will do in response to the dog. Mm-hmm. And as I said, you'll probably get better response in that area. Right now, we really look for data in the area. It's not the best because we really can't do things, for hundreds of kids at one time. I mean, I certainly have lots of videotapes of lots of kids doing great things, but all this is getting better because it's more accepting and it's known to be, it works. We know it works. You just have to have good instructors. Okay, I will give you an example for me, okay? I knew, because of my background working with many people, children of different ages, physical problems, I knew sort of what my needs were going to be. I was really lucky in that way. So I trained because I was trained by service dog trainers, not just one course, but I was trained over years of having my dog in courses that. My thing was, I don't think I was going to be able to get underneath a table if something fell under a table. I don't think I was going to be able to get something, pick things up. What if I drop, which I tend to do now, if I drop utensils? I might not be able to get it. And I know, for example, I'm sitting in a scooter right now. And if something falls between my knees, I can't get it from right in that area. I have to do all these other things to get underneath. But I could just ask Sadie now to get it, and she'll bring it right to me. And so I don't need her to open doors for me. Mm-hmm. I don't need her to jump through the sky for me. So I'm not teaching her those things. We know that with animals, also with people, if you don't do something, you lose something. We talk about a language. Right. If you don't use a language, you're not going to really learn it as well. So my idea was to teach Sadie something that she was going to use all the time. And very shortly, she can do all that now. For my service needs, Sadie's 2. She passes everything. She's passed all the things in AKC. If you have someone, say, coming back from war who has PSCD, that person needs something different. So you're going to have a dog or another animal trained to meet those needs. Don't expect everything from everybody. Mm-hmm. Pragmatically, she can start a conversation up. Children who, for example, never like to talk, okay? We have terms for that also, you know. Those kids, whether vocalize, whether sign, but bring that dog into that situation where they are not required by law to do anything, to another person hanging over them to do. They just open up a whole new world. And I just can't think of anything better myself. It will not work if you don't have somebody there. I was always there with my dogs. Mm-hmm. I could handle the entire situation all the time. Don't expect too much. I mean, look at the programs out that they have now, which dogs will sit as a child reads and will sit and listen to a child read. I can't think of anything better because I have kids that are dyslexic. Mm-hmm. And will do one in particular that I'm thinking about right now. She learned the sight alphabets, both lowercase and uppercase, in one day because of Sadie. You know, no one said that she could do it, and she just did it. And I don't think it was me. I thought it was Sadie, because Sadie was like, whoa, look at you, you know, because Sadie loves this girl. So it's just amazing, you know. They just need somebody who is not making a judgment. A dog does not judge. Sometimes when you have a dog there or you have an animal, I don't care if it is a rabbit, you know, they're not forcing you to do anything. And not that the teacher or the speech therapist or the OT or the PT are forcing you to do anything. But I tell you, I'd rather put my leg up on top of one of the, a Great Dane as opposed to being pulled up by somebody else, because they do have Great Dane rescues, but Great Dane service dogs. And they're really meant for people, you know, for standing and things like that. And I personally would just rather do it for that dog. They don't judge. No one judges it. You know, that dog just doesn't, they don't, and it's not that they care, but they just reward you all the time. They got a lot of love to give. My view is it's just going to continue to expand. I think it's probably at the kindergarten level right now. And I think the more we learn both from the animal and from ourselves. We learned a great deal from chimpanzees. And it's going to be the same thing with a dog, again, or a horse. And I think we were speaking before, because you choose who you need to work with, and they choose you also. A dog always wants to help. Dogs are like that. They just always want to help a person. Dog sees that you're really sad. Sadie's like, why are you really sad? Come on, I'll do something really funny, and you're gonna really smile. You know, so every animal, every person does something different for you. I was thinking when you asked that question, I thought, boy, can we learn a lot. I mean, if we could. No, we don't think the same way a dog thinks, and we don't think the same way a cow thinks. We don't think, but we can learn so many things, like I said before, patience and working things out one by one by one. First you do this, then you do that. Organization. A dog doesn't go haphazardly at things, but they work it out. They put it into an order. You can learn softness. You can learn communication. And what do we do as speech therapists? We just love, communication is such a big thing. And I think that communication ability is just phenomenal. I've had multiple dogs. and multiple service dogs. And what I learned was there was a time in my life that I would always just have one dog. And then just by happenstance, I had two dogs, and they were of different ages. I didn't have to spend a whole lot of time teaching the younger dog, who was a puppy, around that 2-year-old, because the 2-year-old taught the puppy. And, you know, all my dogs have been like that. I've not had to spend a great deal of time teaching the younger dogs things to do. None of the dogs touch the garbage can because the older dogs say, not a good thing. You know, not a good thing to do that. And they don't. And everybody's just shocked. They don't. And I don't teach that. Just look at a dog's eyes. Talk about melting. I mean, it's just like, you know, yeah, it's just amazing. You know, if you teach a dog to be aggressive, you will have an aggressive dog. Mm-hmm. They're not born aggressive. You know, they learn from their environment and everything else. I mean, pit bulls, I have a pit bull living right next door, 2 of them. They have a baby, a 4-year-old, and an older. That pit bull is just wonderful. But that pit bull has known nothing but love. I think the world is really wide open to a lot of different. Look, you know, dogs. What they do in different situations. You have dogs going into ski hills. You know, finding, you know, people that have been buried by avalanches, fires. Look at the things, you know, with all the fires that went out on the West Coast this year. Look what the dogs did. I mean, it was amazing how they protected other animals, stayed with their areas. It's just a really good thing.
Thank you so much. That was so great for me.